All right, we begin with our big story, inflation and the U.S. economy. A new report showing consumer prices climbing to their highest level since January. September CPI rising 3% year over year, marking a slight increase from the month prior, but still below economists' expectations. The data sending stocks to new all-time highs, with investors now confident the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates when it meets next week. The White House touting the inflation numbers, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt saying this is, quote, good news for American families. All of this as President Trump's trade war looms in the background. The president announcing just last night that he's canceling all ongoing trade negotiations with Canada. For more, let's go to University of Michigan economics and public policy professor Justin Wolfers. Justin, when you dig into these inflation numbers, it's food items like beef and coffee seeing the biggest jump in cost. What sticks out to you about this report?
So, first of all, this report overall is not good enough and not terrible. What's really happening out there is it was over the previous few years services inflation that was really keeping inflation high. It's now been joined by goods inflation. And that's some of the goods you're talking about, things like beef, food, and a whole range of imported items. If I've got any advice for the folks at home right now, we're in an economy right now where beef prices are soaring and American farmers have soybeans. The simple solution is, of course, more vegetarians. If we had more vegetarians, the cost of living wouldn't be rising so quick.
And how much of this inflation can be attributed to the trade war?
So that's what's important about looking at goods prices. Goods prices, it's stuff that goes on boats. And so you're seeing it in categories like furniture, electronics, to some degrees food as well. But I really do want to emphasize that this is not the full weight of the trade war so far. Remember, the full set of tariffs, the president's been talking about this for months, on again, off again, on again, off again. The full weight of the tariffs is only relatively recent, the last couple of months. So we do know foreign countries aren't giving us discounts. They're not eating the tariffs. Some of it's going through to the grocery store, but a lot of it's coming out of the profits of big corporations. That's not going to happen forever. So more is coming through to the price stickers you and I see out there.
And with President Trump re-aggravating trade talks between the U.S. and Canada, at least, and no relief in sight for Trump's trade war with China, what does the inflation picture look like for the rest of 2025 and maybe even into 2026?
Mate, I can't do anything but tell it to you straight. This Canada thing is literally the dumbest thing I've ever heard. The Canadians ran an advertisement showing Ronald Reagan being against tariffs. Guess what? Ronald Reagan was against tariffs, as has every recent Republican president for years. It upset the president. He thought the Canadians were lying. That's simply not true. President Reagan hated tariffs. And so he said he's going to stop negotiations with the Canadians. The good news is, so it's really dumb. The really good news is that actually most of our trade with Canada right now is effectively at very, very low tariff rates. So if nothing changes, things are actually going to be okay.
Eyes this week were on these economic numbers. Next week, it's all about the Fed. And the Fed, the central bank, expected to cut interest rates next week. What impact might that have on the U.S. economy?
I think relatively minor. The Fed's probably looking at cutting rates by 1/4 percentage point. Markets have already priced that in. People are already responding that way. This is basically just trying to bring interest rates back to normal. I think it's the right decision. Now, let me tell you, there's something still that bugs me about what's going on with the Fed right now. We're at a very, very awkward moment right now. We're in the middle of a trade war. We're worried about inflation taking off. We're worried about the labor market slowing down. But we have no economic data. We have no economic data, of course, because of the government shutdown. So fortunately, we have enough useful indicators. The Fed probably will be able to cut rates, but in future months, they're going to need to see some real numbers to know. It already feels like we're steering through fog. No need to make it even thicker than it already is.
All right. Thank you so much for that.